recording. As always, what's up, guys? Alex again with ALP Entertainment with the co-host Luke. Luke, say what's up to the people.
What up, what up?
Guys, we're going to be talking about, the bye week. Talking about the bye week kind of leading up to the Northwestern game. Talk about the Northwestern game, of course. Talk about the volleyball game that we had, the volleyball match, and then we'll talk about upcoming game with Purdue. So got a lot of cool stuff to pretty much go over today, talk about. Don't mind Luke making more noise than we need to. I guess we can kind of go it like it was nice to have the bye week, in my opinion. I thought we needed it. I think our team needed it just for more injuries to happen. I don't know. What do you think about the bye week?
Yeah, I mean, our whole team, most of the injuries that we have are out for season type of injuries. And so the bye week just kind of rested up whoever we had that was healthy. So that was good. But that was good to see us get a win. We hadn't won back to back. That was our third win in a row, wasn't it?
I believe so. Second. Who we played? We played Michigan. Let me look. You got me tripping. Let's see. Yeah, double. We lost to Michigan 3 weeks ago.
So it was good that we got back-to-back wins. It's been hard for Nebraska to do that kind of thing, and we're sitting at 4-3 above 500, which I know probably about half the fan base
is like freaking out
right now, and the other half is like, I didn't expect to see this. And so I don't know.
There's always positive to a negative.
Yeah. Some people will never be happy.
It was nice. Got to take like a week off. I mean, we took a bye week essentially from making this, and good time just to kind of relax, spend time with families. Let's dive deep into the Northwestern game. I don't know about you. I was super, super worried when the first literally 2 to 3 opening drives was a pick and just turnover on downs. Like, we looked atrocious. And it almost gave me like PTSD flashbacks from last year and the year before of just not being able to execute and getting just stupid mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't look crisp coming out the beginning of the game, and then it started to look like a typical Northwestern Nebraska game where it was going to come down to the wire and super ugly and sloppy with both teams. But do you see the clip of Matt Rule saying, how many times do you get to do something like this over again?
Talking about the Northwestern game last year.
I mean, we're down, or what? We're up 11.
And then we onside kicked it.
And this was the same scenario, just not in Ireland.
Yep.
Or up 11, and he says, how many times do you get to do something over like this in life? And so it was good to see that, even though it was not pretty whatsoever, but it was good to see that we can overcome that. And you can kind of start to see this mental shift in the team. And you don't really like what you see on the field as far as like skill player wise and play calling wise and stuff, but wins are wins, and you can see that kind of mentality start to switch, where you probably would lose that game in the beginning of the season, or for sure last year.
I still think that if we would have played Minnesota now, I think we'd beat Minnesota.
Absolutely.
Just because of the mentality. I agree with you 100%. I think the mentality switch, and we have to give nothing but credit to Coach Rule and just the staff of like flipping that switch of teaching them, like, let the past be the past, focus on the present, day by day, like live by the code of Nebraska, live by the code
one
day
of
by
us.
day.
Yeah.
One of us, like, just live by the code, take it day by day. And I do love how Matt Rule, I think it was before the Northwestern game, I can't remember, I'm pretty sure it was during the bye week, that Sean Callahan asked him about like a bowl game. Like, you're coming up on bowl eligibility, and Matt Rule immediately shut it down and said, that's part of our problem. Like, people were talking about bowl games. That's literally part of our problem. That's why we've been so disappointed and let down in the past, is we as fans expect so much out of Nebraska, and we want them to be great again. And Matt Rule is here to tell you guys, we're not that good. Like, we're getting there. We will get there, but you need to give us time. And it's showing, like, the fact that Matt Rule has rebuilt this program already. Obviously, it's just 4 wins, but you can see the tremendous strides that we've taken mentally rather than physically. And I want to shout out Evan Cooper too, Coach Coop, for flipping that switch of the strength and conditioning more focused on their diets and their nutrition, kind of what we talked about a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, and you want to be careful. There's some dumb people on Twitter that want to be quick to jump on the strength and conditioning coach with all these injuries that are happening. But when they look into it, like almost all of these injuries that have happened were contact injuries, not during practice, in-game injuries.
It's like freak accidents.
Yeah. And so it's not really on the strength and conditioning coach. And I think that he's done an excellent job. I don't really know what to tie all these injuries to, because it's definitely not, it's almost too much to be a freak accident. I don't really know what to think of it when you lose your QB1, wide receiver 1, 2, 3, RB 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I think it's
your
Nebraska gods.
2 of your offensive linemen. It's all on the offensive side. So that was another thing that they kind of touched on, where it can't be on strength and conditioning because our defense is super, super healthy right now. Like, our defense is all healthy and we're playing incredible. And so it's just that, I guess, freak accidents on the offense.
But I had in the notes for today's episode that, did you watch during the bye week a quote NFL scout told Coach Rule that we are the second hardest practicing team behind Georgia?
Yeah, he was quick to be like, I don't want that to go viral. I don't want you to I personally did not say that. He's like, a scout told me, and I had the scout tell the team because they need to know. Because he's like, some of these players, they're like, Coach Rule, we're kind of banged up. We're,
like, I don't care.
He's like, there's a cost to you. Like, we switched the mentality. We're winning more games than we're losing, and that comes at a cost. And for a scout to tell you you're practicing the second hardest behind Georgia, like, that comes at a cost. And then he gets really into detail with NFL scouts. We're like, well, when it comes down to 2 guys, a Nebraska guy and somewhere else, they know how Nebraska practices. And so they might choose that player in a free agency move or a late round pickup instead of a.
I want to talk about player. Too, Coach Coop, just hypothetically, if we were to, I know we won't, and if we do, it'd really shock me. If we hypothetically just say let one of our coaches go from Rule staff, going into next season, the only one I could think of is Satterfield. But say Coop or even Coach Bethel, the running back coach, just somehow got another job, or just we let him go for other reasons, I'm guaranteeing you another Power 5 school would pick them up immediately. They're so well known. They're so they're such great coaches. I think that any other Power 5 school would pick them up immediately.
Yeah, he has a good staff, and they're working with what they have. Most of these guys were, you have to remember, they were only here for 6 months. That's what they had to work with. So most of these guys are other coaches, and you don't like to hear that. They're other people's guys. They're always your guys when you're the head coach, but you know what I mean? They haven't been able to recruit their own players. So I wouldn't expect anyone to leave, even though there's been some position groups that have been slightly disappointing. You want to give them at least a chance to recruit some of their own players and develop some of the players that they were inherited with. But no, I could agree. The people that are definitely getting the most flack are the offensive coordinator, maybe a little bit of the wide receiver coach, definitely the O-line coach. Although we haven't really been talking about offensive line blunders as of late, which is pretty nice.
It is pretty nice.
The pocket looked crisp against Northwestern.
Yeah, I just think we were making bad throws.
Yeah, our quarterback just isn't really a quarterback, really. But
to the next point, I thought our offense was mediocre. Kind of what you said earlier, just typical Northwestern Nebraska game. It's sloppy, back and forth. That's how we play Northwestern. And I hate to say it, that's how we're going to play Iowa at the end of the year. We always play Iowa tight. They play us tight because I feel like we're the same team. And Minnesota almost was the kind of exact same way. I feel like those 3 games going into the season, you always think it's going to be a tight game. It's always going to come down to the last possession. And if it doesn't, then it's weird.
Yeah. No, we got to make sure that you play. We can't afford any stupid mistakes. So you got to play clean, and then this does fall on the coaching staff, or you got to make sure we are calling the right plays to put people in position. So, for example, Northwestern is the worst team in the Big Ten against the run. First play of the game, we had our quarterback that only throws it like 10 times a game, do a 30-yard pass downfield, and it's intercepted. So you kind of question there. You're like, all right, I understand you want to maybe set a tone, but we need to make sure that we're doing the right things that puts us in the right position
it's
for
a chess
success.
match. We're playing chess, not checkers. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why we thought we could do that. Throughout the game, I thought, like I said, we were mediocre. I was kind of waiting for that, like, lightning in the bottle kind of thing where it's like, boom, wakes you up out of your seat. And I definitely think that the one thing that was the Malachi Coleman touchdown.
The belly option run to the belly option pass.
Like, I really, and it's funny because I loved how Coach Rule was like, I don't like to give, he's like, I give credit where credit's due, and I don't like make anything really like emotional, or I try not to be fashionable, or not fashionable, but like flashy is what I'm trying to say. And he said after we scored to Malachi, he like looked up and pointed to Coach Osborne up in the press, and I'm like, I guess some old tricks do work, but I think the only reason why the old tricks do work is because nobody runs that scheme anymore. Like, the scheme's been outdated for 30 years. Like, obviously it's probably going to work once in a while.
Yeah, and it was Tom Osborne just mentioned to him they keep doing that belly option run, and that if they're going to keep doing that, they're going to have to at least attempt the opposite with the pass. And Matt Rule was pointing out that he commends Malachi because that man literally just runs down the field every single play to kind of free up other people to make plays.
Did you watch? I went back and got to watch the play again, that touchdown pass from like the minute it was snapped. If you watch the cornerback that was on Malachi, as soon as Harburg did like the play action, essentially the fake dive, the corner bit, and then saw Malachi just beat him, and he just turned and burned. Malachi had probably 3 to 4 steps on him, but in that situation, say the corner doesn't bite, do you still make that throw? Like, do you just toss it up and say, screw it? Malachi will go pull it down. He's 6'5".
Well, Harburg isn't really afraid to make the risky throws, as we've kind of known. So I feel like he would have still tried to. I would have loved. I'm glad that he made that decision, and I wish he would just do it regardless of where the corner was, because you want to see if Malachi, the young receiver, can make a play. He's going to have to do that sometimes where it's a 50-50, and you're going to have to trust him. And I don't think he's really been in a play situation quite yet where it's been like a 50-50.
No, he's just been like a lot of drag routes, a lot of slants, and then that one pass for a touchdown that was just a simple go route that was literally made for you.
Yeah.
You talked about like kind of how we were missing on certain throws and connections. The Fedoni connection was not there. Like, I don't understand.
It'd be the first time in like 3 or 4 games that it hadn't been there, so it was a little surprising. Yeah,
like I felt like Harburg was literally just trying to force it to Fedoni to the point where he caused a turnover, and it was I would say 2 or 3 of those were Fedoni just didn't catch it. He just didn't catch it, and it hit him in the hands or hit his fingers, and it's like, dude, you got to bring that in. And obviously it's a super tight window that Harburg should not be throwing, but some of those that hit your hands or hit your arms that you can make the catch, bring the ball in. So I was I was upset and surprised by that at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, Fedoni's received more passes than anyone, even in the wide receiver room, probably from Heinrich Harburg. So it's disappointing to see him drop some of those easy ones, and some of the ones that one was a touchdown and one was for a first down that we needed. And so hopefully that was just kind of a 1-week thing, and he'll get that fixed, because you definitely can't afford to not have a tight end that can catch the ball.
Yeah, I think
in our offense.
Yeah, you and I talked kind of pre-episode about Fedoni. Like, Fedoni's a good blocker, but he's not a good catcher. He just needs to develop that part of his skill set. Once he does, I think he'll be more of a complete tight end. I'm curious to see if he actually puts on weight in the offseason. I'm curious to see if he puts on the weight in the offseason, or if he's going to keep this like slimmer trend like the slimmer body that he's got now? I'm just genuinely curious.
No, I kind of thought that too. It just doesn't look like, with all of his knee surgeries and things like that he just doesn't have a super quick step. He has huge strides because he's a big man, but he doesn't have that really quick first step. And so you would think that maybe they would suggest putting on more weight so he become more of a blocking tight end. But yeah, no, he still needs to work on the catching part. He has a good catch radius. He just has to make sure that he can bring it
His
in.
hands.
Yeah.
And of course, it wouldn't be a Nebraska game day without injuries. Piper and Corcoran went down for the year, and then Kemp is out for a couple weeks. The Kemp thing surprises me that it happened. This is going to sound terrible. It happened so late in the year. For someone who's small, shifty, does a lot of these quick, small out routes, I'm surprised that he has not had a non-contact injury yet. Like, I'm really shocked that it took this long, but more props to him, more props to Coach Coop about like the strength aspect of your body, taking care of yourself, the nutrition, stretching. I know they do yoga, they stretch, like that's big. So as much as it pains me, like I feel like we're not going to miss Kemp that much because he was not. They always talked every week, like, let's get him in the game, let's get him the ball, let's make sure he's our playmaker, let's get him the rock as much as we can. It's, well, you didn't get him the ball. Like, you got him the ball once and it was -4 yards, and then he went down with a knee injury. He wasn't able to really get the ball as much as you're saying it is. And I think now you need to get you have to feed the hot hands, which are Malachi, Emmett, Johnson, maybe Anthony Grant. We'll kind of see. I still think that Harburg's going to go with Fedoni quite a bit, but I feel like those are your 4 that you got to feed, and then Harburg's just going to run it himself.
Yeah, I mean, got to roll with what you got, and they got basically 4 freshmen that are going to be playing wide receiver, and then I basically count Fedoni as another freshman, even though he's not, just because of the limited football that he's played. And then you got a very young, you could call a freshman at quarterback that's barely played football. It's just a lot of, this was the second time, I think the first game of the year, all of our points were scored by Husker native kids. This was the second game of the year where we had each player that scored in our game. Tristan Alvano, Omaha kid; Malachi Coleman, Omaha kid; Heinrich Harburg, Kearney Catholic kid.
Dude, that feels good. That feels good to hear. I didn't really know that stat, but that feels good to hear. Just knowing that, like, there is talent here.
They're all young too, and they're all still figuring it out. And so, I mean, that kind of puts to bed the rumors like Nebraska football or Nebraska, the state, doesn't have very good football talent. Like, you have talent here, you just have to make sure you develop it.
And I think we got the right dudes in place. I do want to talk a little bit too of Harburg has led our team in rushing. It seems like almost every game since he came into starting role, but 77 yards. I thought that was a little much and excessive. Like, why is your quarterback leading you in rushing yards? But if that's the scheme that Rule and Satterfield like have put into place now that Harburg is the quarterback, I'm not sure, but
he's got to work. I mean, that's what he's best at. He's option running and QB runs, and
he didn't pitch the ball. That was such a Twitter joke. He's like, didn't pitch the ball.
He doesn't like to pitch the ball, but I think he's just got in his head that he's got to limit the number of chances that he has to turn the ball over. And he knows that he has to take some shots down the field to open up the offense and keep the defense on their toes. And so he knows that those are potential turnover balls too. So he's just got to make sure that he's clean with it. But he definitely doesn't like to pitch the ball. But I did see a stat that he is 8th in the country out of all quarterbacks in the country in rushing yards, and I won't tell you what he is in some of the other stats.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
Well, we won't talk about that, but hey, we're winning games, and that's what matters.
It's crazy because we have a buddy that lives in Hawaii. He's out there for the military, and it's so funny because I wouldn't say he's hopped off the Nebraska like fandom ship, essentially, just being a Nebraska fan. I wouldn't say that 100%, but he has his moments where he's like, I can't believe that you guys are like Nebraska's this bad, and it's like we're not. Like I think since we live here and we see all this like stuff that's like behind the scenes and everything like that, we can see the rebuild process more attentively than he can. I think that's why that we can see it, um, and I think that's also kind of why we count our small victories. Like we're very happy with the progress that Nebraska has made, even these little mental changes of just flipping the switch of, hey, you're up 11 last year against Northwestern, like don't blow it, kind of. But the way that Matt Rule's spinning it, of, you don't get second chances. Like this is your second chance. Don't mess it up, essentially. So, um, back to the Omaha kids, Alvano, a 47-yarder
Into the wind.
right in the middle, perfect. That looked good. It felt good, and you could see just like the excitement on the kids, just like on his face, his body language, and then just like the team, like everyone was rallying around him, just like so happy for him that he finally made it. He went 1-for-1, and I'm happy about it.
Yeah, and if you saw Matt Rule's press conference, that he said Alvano had missed an extra point in warmups, and he wanted to stay out there, and he's like, gosh darn it, like I missed. I got to hit another one before we go into the tunnel. And Matt Rule's like came up to him and he said, "You didn't need 2 field goals to make the game-winning kick in the state championship. Like, get your ass off the field. You're fine."
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the thing that Matt Rule's instilling into these young players and some of the old players that have only known losing and losing culture, and don't have like the right mindsets when it comes into games when they hit adversity. And so you can tell that Matt Rule's instilling that, drilling it into their heads, into these young guys' heads, and so you can start to see that shift happen into the program.
Defensive wise, I obviously black shirts. Like I hate to say that, but the black shirts making a comeback. We look good as always. Um, Isaac Gifford, dude, was flying around like a damn predator missile. Like he was heat seeking. I know Tony White during today's press conference, just to recap the Northwestern game, was talking about how actually it was Tony White and Matt Rule both said that Gifford had like the tackle of the game when he missed the tackle in the read option, and then he chased him down and tackled him out of bounds.
He went crossfield, and then he shed 2 blockers. He made 2 guys miss to go make the tackle, and so he's a ball hawk, and he's always around where the ball is, and he makes the smart decision, which is what you need on this team, is people that are making the right and smart decisions. And you just got, I mean, we're not getting a lot of turnovers on defense, but they're just super stout right now and making smart plays.
I agree. Hutmacher, right? I don't want to mispronounce
the polar bear, Nash Hutmacher.
Yeah, I don't want to mispronounce his last name. The polar bear is pretty much what everybody calls him. But yeah, that dude was a beast, literally a monster. Him and Ty, I think that I feel like we're quick to give like player of the game to offensive players, but I feel like you have to give it to the polar bear. I think you have to give it to him over anybody else, over Harburg or even Malachi.
Yeah, I think. Well, there was like a post game show that had Johnny Rogers on it, and he gives out his like player of the game, and he typically gives it to the offensive player because he was a quarterback, but he was saying that he wanted to give it to the polar bear just because of how much he disrupted that game, and he was saying that his draft stock is rising because of this. When you got 2 meatheads in the middle that require a double team almost every single time, and that's why we were pretty successful in getting we had 7 sacks against Northwestern, which I think tied for most that we had this season, because I think we also had 7 against Colorado, even though we lost that game. But that's because if you can get those guys on one-on-one, they'll win, and most of the time they're going to get double teamed, so that's going to leave open the edge rushers. And we have some talented young edge rushers with Princewell, Umam Yellen, who well, I know the Williams guy, but he was on the scout team all year, and we can kind of talk about that in a second. But most of these edge rushers that are getting to the quarterback, um,
Quick.
they're getting to him quick because they're young and hungry, and they're talented, and they're getting their opportunities. So yeah, you just get big shout outs to the meatheads in the middle because they're really holding it down for the defense, and we're ranked almost positive that we're ranked in the top 10,
Like we're eighth, I think, right, as of Sunday.
for sure, like top 15 and run defense allowed. So like we allow the least amount of rushing yards for teams in the NCAA, which is really impressive, I think, for a first year defensive coordinator, Tony White.
Um, it did surprise me, like kind of post game, that Northwestern actually had more total yards and passing yards than us. We beat them out in rushing. We actually doubled theirs, 162 to 81. I think that's just the blueprint of Nebraska football as it was, last week. And I feel like that's always going to be our blueprint is just smash mouth ball, running at your face, hit you across the chest, whatever we got to do to run the ball. And, it seems like Anthony Grant is the one guy that we not necessarily need to hold our breath on when he runs the ball. But I will say that last possession we were on offense when they put him in and we're just doing handoffs to like just kill the clock. I was gripping the seat. I was gripping the couch. I was like, dude, please, for the love that is all that is holy in this world, please do not fumble it. I know that Rule and Satterfield have to get that trust back in him and just that confidence back in Grant. But I don't know, man. It just, I'm the kind of person that's like, you mess up, I'll give you another chance, but not when it's the most important time of the game. Like when it's crunch time, I don't know if I can depend on you to make that routine catch. I will tell you in my coaching life and my coaching experience, kind of countering what I just said, which is strange now I think about it. I am the coach that will get on you if you miss a ball. Like I played wide receiver in college. Like if you drop a ball and you miss it, I will get on you quick. But I will immediately tell you, hey, you're going to go out, you're going to sit out a couple plays, and I'm going to tell you on the sideline while you're standing there with me, hey, you're going to go out later in this game and make the game-winning catch, or you're going to make the catch when it matters. And so hopefully Rule, Satterfield, and Grant all have the same understanding of if he's fumbling when it matters most, then we can't trust him with the ball. It seems like he's been making ball security improvements at practice from what I've been hearing and reading. So kudos to him, I guess. But I still think Emma Johnson's the starter for next week.
Yeah, you have to kind of balance because you have a freshman in Emmett Johnson who some people, just from the radio station I listened to, they were surprised that he was even offered a spot at Nebraska when there was like, I believe, the number one rushing or the number one running back in Minnesota was available and didn't get an offer from Nebraska, and we chose Emmett Johnson instead. Now he's kind of proven himself a little bit in these past couple games that he has some playmaking ability, but you just have to balance that. You got a freshman running back and then a fumble prone uh, other running back, and so that's probably where Heinrich Harburg has been getting most of these carries and leading the team in rushes because you just kind of you have to trust who's going to take care of the ball the most, and whether you like seeing Heinrich Harburg run a lot or not, he doesn't fumble it when he gets hit, and he's not scared to lean in and lower his shoulder and uh, initiate the hit when he's running with the ball. And he's shown that he can take care of it. It's really just been the quarterback handoff to the running backs and the snaps that have been, and the interceptions that have been the issue. But he's been holding it high and tight, and he keeps good care of it. So
I'm surprised that Purdue is 2-5. I thought they were better than that. I know that them and Illinois had
first year head coach.
Yep, and I think that's why it surprises me is them and Illinois had such high expectations of their teams going into the season. So Illinois is not good this year, and neither is Purdue, and I think that just comes with the growing pains. But that legitimately surprises me that excuse me, they're 2-5, and Nebraska is barely a favorite. Is that right? 4%, 4%, 4 points.
Yeah, I think they're like a 4.5 point favorite. Home game. They have Purdue is a typical air raid team. Now they with this new first year head coach and missing some of their big playmakers that they normally have had. They've leaned more heavily into the run game, but they're still technically an air raid team. The quarterback is athletic, and then they still do have an NFL talent wide receiver that you have to watch out for. That's probably where we'll put Quentin Newsom. He usually covers the most talented player
I
or
think
wide receiver.
this is going to be a true testament of where we're at defensive wise. I mean, obviously Colorado, that game, Michigan. I think Michigan is still the gold standard of the Big Ten. Them and Ohio State, but I also think that this air raid offense, which is what you see in certain NFL teams, you see around a lot of college teams across the country, that they run this up tempo, fast paced air raid offense that's going to make these little dump passes, that's going to gas you out. Like, kind of what, to your point, the quarterback might run. He might. I don't think he will. I think he's going to look to throw the ball, but he does have 5 interceptions on the year, which is more than Harburg does. So that's a positive in a way. He does also have 1,600 passing yards, so he's got an arm on him. I think 6 of his touchdowns are to his wide receiver. I think his name's Dion Burks.
Yeah, that's the guy that I was saying that you'll have to key in on. And it's the quarterback's just you got a good arm and he's athletic and he can extend plays. He's kind of like a Harburg, but just a little bit better passer. So you just have to make sure that you cover your deep ends and then make sure you cover their best wide receiver. Otherwise, I haven't really heard much else from them. I don't even really know what Purdue is about. Like, I don't know what their offense is or what their defense is.
I don't really know much either. I just know, like,
which could benefit them in a way playing Nebraska as kind of a brand new team with a brand new coach. So
I will say though, with an air raid offense like our defense, you're gonna have like Gifford. You're gonna have a lot of linebackers cover running backs. Like, that's the matchup that they're gonna try to do. I think with Tony White's defense, we're gonna prevent that. I think we're gonna have a lot of cornerbacks and DBs out there to prevent a linebacker or a mismatch. But I think this game is huge on our DBs to step up, gain tackle, ball hawk, get interceptions, and make plays. And, you know, you need to take some pressure off the D line, but at the same time, the pressure's on them to get to the quarterback, make him run. In a way, make him collapse the pocket, make him run the ball if they have to, because it seems like we have a good run defense, proven week after week, but we need you to pass the ball against us to see if you are legit.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be everyone's gonna have to work together and communicate on against this team. They're not world beaters, and so if the defense plays their game, they should be able to shut them down, no problem. In my head, at least. Um, you just want to see and help the offense a little bit, and hopefully the defense can get some more turnovers, or maybe capitalize on some special teams plays this week.
I can't remember who said it, but someone from Nebraska said during our press conference today that Purdue's defense is very high level. I don't know much about their defense either. I don't really care. I don't feel like that's something we need to worry about. I think we need to more worry about our offense and getting it going and getting it moving and get the wheels turning instead of worrying about the defense. I know and understand that's part of the game plan and the strategic advantage, but at the same time, if their defense is as high level as they say that it is, I think that we can compete. I mean, our defense is high level, and our offense goes against the defense every day. So if we're able as our offense to score on our defense, then I think we can score on Purdue. Obviously, we have to limit turnovers, limit stupid mistakes. I don't want to say get a little bit more creative with the play calling, but what if he pitched the ball?
Yeah, I mean that's probably why. I mean, the sports books are probably still cautious on giving Nebraska wins just on how many times they've lost and how they've lost the past couple of years, but you're starting to see kind of a new leaf turn this year, and so we are 4.5 point favorites. And I do believe with Purdue, you've played better teams, you beat better teams this year. If you play your brand of football, which is ugly football, to be honest, I mean, at least on the offensive side, like you will win this game. You just can't shoot yourself in the foot, and I don't think we will. Coming out of that Northwestern game and learning from, we played okay that game. I think we can learn from some of the mistakes, and I really think that with all these freshmen playing, with all the injuries, they're going to be ready to make some big plays, and they're going to be flying around the field. So
I agree. I think we're going to step up. I think the freshmen that we've put in week to week, game by game, I think has stepped up tremendously to their roles and their responsibilities. And I think Rule, Coach Knight, um, Coop, Bethel, White, Satterfield, even Rule has done an amazing job of simplifying the terms to each player, not being like, this is the terminology, this is the prophecy. It's, hey, let me get on your level. How do you learn? How do you need to be coached? And they do it that way. And I think that's the right way of doing it. And it's shown. Um, you know, all of us Omaha kids and Nebraska kids want to see Malachi score or just get on the field, and he was named a starter. And I think literally Husker Twitter blew up. Like once they announced Malachi was a starter for this game, for Northwestern, that was electric, and so many people were looking forward to it.
yeah, you're going to have, I mean, a lot of people, a lot of Nebraska people will be excited this week, especially with all the Husker kids starting to play. Um, and you also have to kind of think about, we have 5 games left, and so you'll start to see some of these players that they were. You have a 4 game limit that you can burn until you lose a red shirt. So there are a number of younger players that are redshirting that we'll start to see here in those last couple of games, just because they need to get their feet wet. They need to get that in-game experience. But then also Matt Rule's conscious about saving their career and making sure they keep that red shirt and keep all 4 years of eligibility. I wish, I don't know exactly. I can't think of a specific example, but he was talking about that a little bit in his press conference.
I'll have to go back and watch it. I don't really remember much either. What is your what's your prediction, and who do you think are your standouts?
Uh, I believe Malachi is going to have another long touchdown again um, at some point in the game. I don't know if he'll be a standout player, but I think he's going to have a repeat kind of the same type of play. And then I mean, I honestly think our defense just shuts them down and has an amazing game again. Um, I think it's probably slow going on offense yet again. Trying to get everyone on the same page. All these freshmen working with Heinrich Harburg, doing first team reps kind of for the first time. So I will say I think Nebraska will score a healthy amount. I think they'll go 24, Purdue 14. I think it's going to be 24-14 Nebraska.
You and I are complete polar opposites. I am thinking 15-7,
Oh,
almost identical to the last game.
you're thinking lower scoring? Yeah.
I think lower scoring. I think Nebraska wins 15-7. I am nervous about this game. I was very adamant telling my wife before I came over that I'm nervous about this game. I don't know why. I think it's because of the good throwing quarterback. Like obviously Shador Sanders is the guy to watch right now, but Cade McNamara from Michigan was a quarterback, a throwing quarterback. I don't think that we do well against a throwing quarterback that well, like just a pure pocket passer. Obviously, we've evolved day by day. We evolved, and there's a part of me that thinks that Nebraska is going to struggle against this air raid because of the DBs that we have and the inexperience. But I'm going to say Anthony Grant's going to be our guy. I know I am quick to shit on him and just like hate on him and ridicule him, but I think that when you take away a starter's spot on the lineup, essentially, they are more hungry. I think that they're more frustrated. I think they're more determined to get that spot back than ever before. And I do believe that Anthony Grant came into the season thinking that he was going to be a starter regardless. And I know Gabe Irwin took it from him essentially, but I think Anthony Grant has that fire underneath him a lot more now going into this game than he did previous weeks. I think Anthony Grant scores both of our touchdowns. Actually, I'm sorry. I think he's going to score one touchdown, and Alvano's going to kick us 2 field goals, 2 or 3. 3. Yeah, geez, I can't do math today. I think he'll kick us 3 field goals, be good, and it's just going to be us crossing our fingers and just clinching on the couch, worrying about our DBs. That's my opinion on what the game's going to be like against this air raid.
I feel, yeah, I would agree with you if it was the typical Purdue with that typical Purdue that we grew up with in the Big Ten, where they had like 3 NFL wide receivers and 2 NFL running backs and things like that. And so that with the new coach and only one somewhat threat at wide receiver, that's why I think they can score 14. I think they can get 2 touchdowns. Excuse me. But I just haven't heard much about their defense yet. So I don't know. I think from what I'm hearing, your players are going to be Alvano and Grant. My players are going to be Harburg and Malachi Coleman again. I think they're going to connect.
I do agree with you from earlier saying Newsome's the guy. I think defensively Newsome's the guy, and I think Gifford's going to have a hard. I think Gifford's going to have a hard game, not a good game. I think he's going to have a hard game, meaning he's going to have to cover those slot receivers. He's going to have to cover the running backs on those just kind of flare routes and just even the out routes and the whip routes. Like I think Gifford's going to have to. He's going to be pretty much battle tested more than just being a great tackler. I think his coverage is going to be battle tested, and I'm curious to see if he steps up. I think he will. I think just him and his brother play so much identical to each other, and I think that he'll step up tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, really, I agree. I think the defenses. I don't really have an issue with the defense. I think they're all going to step up. Really, the only games that you would be disappointed with on the defense would be the Michigan game where we just got rocked, and then the Louisiana Tech game where we didn't tackle very well. But I think that was only because we tried to emphasize the defense on getting takeaways, and defense needed more turnovers, and so that's kind of how we tackled in that game. And so I don't put too much on the defense for that one. But yeah, no, they pretty much every game they've been setting records and making names for themselves and stamping themselves into the top 10 and top 15 of stats and stuff like that for defense. So I suspect that they would have a good game. I don't fear Purdue's offense too much.
Dude, you're convincing me otherwise. Like I want to change. Oh, damn. I'll go 20. I'll go 20 for Nebraska, and I'll go 10 Purdue. I want to give Purdue a little bit more, but I do feel like as much as I'm hating on Grant, I feel like Grant's going to be the guy. Or Emmett. Like maybe Emmett just comes out of nowhere and takes off for like a 40-yard touchdown run. But I also think Grant has that ability to do so. I don't see Harburg doing it as often because I feel like Purdue's defense is honing in on Harburg instead of Malachi, Badoni, or even Jalen Lloyd. I mean, Jalen Lloyd, I feel like speed has been wasted so far just doing jet sweeps.
Yeah, Lloyd and Doss will be, just because of Billy Camp being out, we're going to have to target those small, quick, fast guys that can make plays like Jaden Doss and Jalen Lloyd. So it'll be really interesting to see how they do that. Malachi Coleman's more of just the deep threat, and then
he's fast. He runs a 4.4.
And then hopefully Thomas Fedoni can use his hands again this week. So
we'll see. I'm also curious to see if Coach Osborne wants to drop a triple option again. Some stupid
yeah,
tries to pull a play out from his 80s or 90s playbook. And as always, if we die, we die.
Yeah, if we die, we die.
Dude, he gives the best speeches. He does. He makes you just. I know, like Will Compton was busting with the boys and Husker alumni. He went on his podcast and was immediately like talking to Taylor about. It's like when you get that speech, like I'm ready to die on the field. And that's like true. Coming from a player, like that's legit true. You're so hyped up, your testosterone is through the roof, your adrenaline's through the roof, and you're ready just to like go to war. Like what Matt Rule meant was you leave everything on the field. And so literally they have to physically pry you off the field. Like if you die, you die. Like that's the point. He didn't mean to reference Drago from Rocky, but he just meant it as, you know, we're here to fight and we're here to fight until our very last breath. And we die, we die.
And he's only able to achieve that by getting everyone on the team to buy into his plan and his mentality and his vision for everyone. He walks in there at the beginning of the year and he makes that speech, and people will probably laugh him off the stage, but because he's got everyone to buy in and everyone believes in what he's building here, players and fans included now, I would think uh, that speech definitely hits different. So
I definitely think you gained a lot more fans. I know Kevin Durant plays for the Phoenix Suns now, NBA superstar. Excuse me. He actually quote retweeted it. I don't know if you saw that.
yeah, I did.
And he's like, I want to run through a wall for this man. It's like, yeah, that's how we all are here. I think Rule has week by week gained more Husker fans' approval, trust, and respect. And I think, we're
Well,
making slow progress, but
even
we're
his
going in the right way.
even his midweek press conferences are starting to blow up, like on Twitter and stuff. Whereas Scott Frost, it was a hassle and an inconvenience for him to talk to media, and so it's definitely a different vibe, a different person at the helm for Nebraska, where he kind of enjoys talking, and he doesn't mince words, and he when he says something, like, it always has a meaning behind it. So that's why we're always interested in following whenever he does press conferences.
Yeah, it's always what Monday, Tuesday. You definitely get Rule on Monday. We get our coordinators on Tuesday, and I think we have a press conference Friday. Depends on if it's a home game or not.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I think that's pretty much it. I
Yeah,
don't
we
I
get
don't
press
think
conference.
there's a Wednesday, Thursday, but there might be something in there. I don't know, but
It's always either like right before practice or it's right after. Like it just kind of depends on the time of the day. But
yeah. So we'll see today. Today's Tuesday. What's home game?
at
Excuse me.
2:30,
Home game 2:30. I think we'll be ready to go. There's not a volleyball game that'll be in Lincoln this time, so
yeah, it was cool to see. I
they
mean,
did get more viewers than the football team,
yeah,
which is
and
insane.
I hate I hate that I worked a long day that day. I fell asleep right before the last set, and I'm like super pissed off at myself because I wish I would have watched it. I fell asleep with like Wisconsin leading the third or fourth set. They were up like 5-1, and it looked like Wisconsin's uh, front line was just so tall, so athletic that I was like, you know what? Let them use 6'7", 6'9" women just to put their hands up and block the net. They're gonna win. And sure shit, I woke up middle of the night and it was Nebraska volleyball beats Wisconsin, and I know that they sold out Devaney Center, set a record.
Yeah, the prices for those tickets were insane. Um,
You had people go right from the football game, walked across the street, and went to the Devaney Center.
yeah, if they had the money to do it. I know the football tickets were like $30 compared to the volleyball tickets were like hundreds of dollars, if not thousands. Um, it was number one versus number two, undefeated. Both teams have each other's number. Nebraska's hasn't been able to get over the hump for beating them, and of course it goes into 5 sets. Kind of just what everyone would have
We have to
thought
play them again this year in Madison at the end of the year.
at the end of the year. Well, I mean that'll be another. That's
Sellout crowd.
I wouldn't be surprised if like someone tried to pick that up if both teams were still as hot as they are right now. Then,
I
if,
feel like where would Wisconsin even fall? You went from one, you lost number two. I feel like we just changed places. I feel like that's all we're going to do for rankings.
yeah, well, no, they already. I think they announced the very next day that Nebraska is now the number one team. Um, Even though I think there was someone that didn't give them a first place vote. I don't remember who that was, but
Whatever. We don't need that
there's
negativity here.
always someone like that.
Is this such a hater? No, dude, it was such an amazing weekend. Watching Nebraska win on just in the state, watching the football team win, watching the volleyball team win. High school football playoffs have start this Friday. I know a lot more about that, I think, because I'm just in my coaching realm. Um, but I think honestly, dude, we're at a good spot. We can end this episode. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this will be good. Right, we'll cover on how we do against Purdue, and if anything else happens, um,
Let you guys know.
we'll let you guys know. Yeah.
As always, guys, please share, tell your friends, tell your dogs, tell your cats, tell your animals, tell everybody that we're making moves out here. We're going up, we're not going down. We never plateau. We're progressing, not regressing. Just let everybody know. Let everybody know. Listen to us, ALP Entertainment, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Excuse me. Give us a listen. Um, I was your co-host, Alex. Thank y'all. Luke, you got anything else for the people?
No, I think we're all set. I'm excited to talk to you guys next week. Peace out.
As always, stay fresh.